Welcome to another edition of Pharaoh Talk. I'm your host, Chosen Blakey. Today we'll be discussing with Charles Grant. Charles, how you feeling, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm honestly starting to think that there's a little something to these betting trends that we've discovered.
Absolutely. If you don't do so already, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Fantasy Pharaohs. You don't want to miss our content. And make sure you follow our affiliates too at the Fantasy Football Astronauts. We create really good YouTube content on their site. Make sure you go follow and subscribe as well. All right, outside of the incredible news that's came out for NFL, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson now, March Madness is here. Anybody that follows NCAA brackets or remember growing up and putting out some teams that you just hope will get to the big dance, you just scribbling in names. Well, today I filled out a bracket based off the way I've been betting recently, and I've came to some interesting takes. We're gonna see how it starts on tomorrow, starting off with my top picks. But before I get into my final four and the winner of the overall bracket, again, I've never bet college. We've never bet college basketball before, so this is completely new for us. We're just taking the same approach that we took for football and basketball and applying it to a different sport. So, what I will say is that the first games for the first four, my top two games is Indiana and Notre Dame. I do like Indiana money line. I think -4, and I like that would put me at like I like the Notre Dame spread too at -1. What's your thoughts on those two games if you decide to bet on those?
So Indiana has, I think, a former NBA coach coaching them. So I think that's pretty interesting. There's a lot of new blood in this tournament, but a lot of people are on the Indiana bandwagon right now. People feel like they probably should have been in the tournament to begin with, not having to play within the first four. So that's probably one of, if not the best bets of the first four on tomorrow and Wednesday. I would probably only put that second behind Notre Dame, and we were kind of talking about that earlier. Just some of the things that you found out about, the matchups between those two teams, and -1 might be, kind of underselling Notre Dame right now. So I think that both of those are some pretty good picks going into the first four.
Yeah, there's an interesting play with Wright University, or is it Wright State? Wright State. They're from Dayton, and they play Bryant, who I always forget where they're from, but Bryant's not from Ohio. So Wright State is essentially having a home game here. I put a little bit of money on them, like $5, but I'm interested to see if Wright State's going to come out on top against Bryant, since they're essentially playing in the same city that they're from. That's what I'm interested in. My biggest upset for the first round is going to have to be UAB over Houston and Chattanooga over Illinois. You're getting plus money on these bets. I think UAB is plus 300 with an 8.5 spread, and Chattanooga is like plus two something or 190, somewhere around there. Those are my biggest upsets in terms of getting the money that you can get off of these type of games. I don't expect any of the top guys to fall in the first round as far as the 1 through 4 seeds, but I do really like UAB and Chattanooga. Well, actually, actually Illinois is a 4 seed, so I take that back. So I do expect them to lose. What's your thoughts on those two games right there?
So we were talking about the UAB one earlier, and one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that UAB has won like 7 of the last 8 or 8 in a row when playing against Houston. So those type of matchups are always interesting. That's just one of the factors that has kind of worked out within betting within football and basketball and whatever the case may be. So with you and I coming in kind of new to this whole college basketball scene, I think that that's a pretty interesting one. I'll probably look at taking UAB's spread at the very least. Um, so I think that could be something that's pretty interesting as well. And the other game that you mentioned was which one?
Chattanooga. And mind you, this is not to uh, people think I'm not a Chattanooga fan. This is actually a high school team. I know this looks like Chattanooga, but it's not. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, it's Chattanooga over Illinois.
Yeah, it was actually perfect how that all worked out there. So I mean, I think that a lot of people are considering this to be one of the upsets potentially of the first round. So Illinois, interestingly enough, does have a all-time tournament record of 41 and 32. So they're definitely experienced within this stage. I don't know how much experience Chattanooga has, but I do think I remember seeing them here a couple of times before. So if you think you found something interesting between those two teams, then I think that would be good to discuss as well. But 7.5 isn't like a um, really big line, and typically I don't think that anything that's below a 3-14 matchup is really considered like a huge upset. Like the one seeds have only lost in the first round, I think, one time a few years ago. That was Virginia. I forget who they lost to, but it was like a 1 or 2 point win. And then how however infrequent those 1, 2, and even sometimes 3 matchups occur with big upsets. It usually starts from the 4 on down. So I think that could be a good one potentially.
Yeah, I did see some interesting notes there. For example, UAB. I want to say Houston has won the last game. In the last 10, UAB is 7-3 against Houston. They're 1-0 on a neutral court, which is important since Houston's not at home. And UAB has only lost back to back one time to Houston in team history. So that's important to know, meaning that they haven't collectively or recently or often lost to Houston back to back is important. Chattanooga, I'm sorry, on the other hand, has played Illinois twice, and they're undefeated against Illinois, which is why I'm on Illinois. So those are my biggest upsets in terms of the brackets. I know people are probably going crazy, but another upset I have, and this is in the second round. That's if these things happen, is Gonzaga losing to Memphis, um, which is pretty big. I really like Memphis this week against Boise State. Boise State is 0-7 in March Madness history. They've never won a tournament game. That lets me know that the stage is too big for them, which makes sense. I think Memphis has been a little bit more seasoned. They've gone to a couple of Elite Eights in their team history. So I do like Memphis a lot this week against Boise State. I think that's a -2.5 spread, which I think is too small. But next week, when Gonzaga destroys my alma mater in Georgia State, that is probably going to be the biggest upset I have of the second round if those two teams meet is Memphis beating them. What's your thoughts on that? I know people have been telling me that Gonzaga's favorite and all this other stuff, but as we see every March Madness, a number one seed has to fall. And for me, that's going to be Gonzaga versus Memphis.
So it's not uncommon for people to have Gonzaga losing even before the Final Four within this particular tournament. This is a team that I believe made it all the way last year and lost in the Final Four or the championship round. Interestingly enough, um, Gonzaga all time is just 2-6 against the Memphis basketball program. So that'll be pretty interesting to see if that can happen. You know, Gonzaga has some really nice pieces. They have guys that are returning from the last run. They have a really nice young prospect, Chet Holmgren, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's like a 7-foot perimeter player, just like these guys keep popping out that have the height but play like guards. So he's looked pretty good his freshman year as well. So I'm kind of partial toward teams that have like future like clear cut NBA talent, but we've seen plenty of times teams that have been stacked with NBA talent, like Kentucky years ago with John Wall. That team I don't even think made the Elite Eight, or that was like as far as they made it or something. So this could be a pretty big upset here if Memphis and Gonzaga happen to make it to the second round. So I'll be definitely watching closely because I actually have the Zags in my Final Four. I kind of favor teams that have experience overall, but I mean, some of these trends that we're seeing, man, like those are just hard to beat.
Yeah, and again, we're not. I don't want our audience to think, or you guys to think, that we're gurus when it comes to college basketball, because this is our first time ever. We haven't bet on any regular season games or nothing. So we're just taking what we've learned from these two different sports, football and NBA, combining it into a strategy to apply it to all sports. But we're going to give you guys what you want. And my final four, coming out of the East, I have Kentucky. I have Kentucky beating Baylor to win the East. Kentucky's record against Baylor is very well. They've played extremely well against Baylor throughout their team history. In the West, I have Arkansas winning and them beating Arkansas beating. Give me 1 second. I want to say Duke. No, Arkansas beating Alabama. So Arkansas and Alabama have played each other um, several times throughout the season, mainly because they're both in the SEC. So they see each other a lot. And I think I actually have Bama coming out the West because they are 1-10. I think Arkansas is 1-10 against them on a neutral court. I think Arkansas has beaten Alabama one time, but I'm going to verify for you guys real quick just to make sure. But I'm almost positive that is 10-1 against Arkansas on a neutral court. Let me grab my bracket real quick. All these brackets now online, so you can just pull them up on your phone. Great stuff. Yes, actually, no, I'll take that back. I have Arkansas winning. Yeah, so Arkansas is reversed. So Arkansas, Alabama struggles against them on a neutral court. So I have Arkansas winning the West. I have Kentucky winning the East against Baylor. I have Villanova beating Arizona in the South. And for the Midwest, I have USC beating Kansas. And for USC to get there, there's a couple of upsets they would have to beat. They would have to beat Miami, then Auburn, who's ranked number 2. They also play Wisconsin, who is the 3rd seed, and Kansas. So if USC does make it all the way to the Final Four, they went through some powerhouse teams as far as their seeding to get to where they get to. USC records against Kansas is actually very well. Kansas, for some reason, doesn't play well against USC. So I have USC, Villanova, Arkansas, and Kentucky in my Final Four. And Charles, what's your thoughts on that? And then give the people your Final Four, and we'll conclude with our winners.
Yeah, so I think that the only commonality that we have in our Final Four is Villanova. So yours is kind of more like a trend fueled, bracket, which will be very interesting to see how this plays out. Mine is just more so based off of experience and things of that nature. So I have Gonzaga and UCLA back in the Final Four. UCLA lost on a heartbreaking, I believe, buzzer-beating shot last year to the Zags. That's a game that I feel that they should have won. They played incredible defense throughout. Typically, you'll see teams kind of just, come back, feel like they deserve to be there, and kind of slack off. But I feel like UCLA is going to come with the Heat this time in a Final Four rematch. And out of the Midwest, I have a Kansas team, which also has a solid defense and NBA prospects as well. So those are my Final Four picks. I think that yours are kind of interesting. I see Arkansas probably losing in the Elite Eight, I believe, to the Zags. So that'll probably be about as far as they go for me. I think the Gonzaga almost kind of feels like they're on a crash course with UCLA. So that's kind of what I've had circled from when I first started looking at this bracket. So I think that that's the matchup that I'm kind of most looking forward to. But it also wouldn't surprise me if it happened. But UCLA is probably my favorite pick to get out of their side of the bracket.
You do know that Baylor is on their side. So I have UCLA in the Elite Eight playing against Baylor. That's a tough game for them to beat them. And then Kentucky is also in their bracket as well. So that's tough. It's spicy, but it's it's tough. Who was coming out of I know you had Villanova out of the South, and who's coming out the Midwest for you? Is that Kansas?
Yep. So mine is just kind of a more typical bracket. I have two number one seeds there coming out and doing what I feel like they should take care of business. But we know how these things go. There's definitely going to be roadblocks for both of these teams, and the ones that you pointed out earlier for the Zags, having them losing a lot earlier than I do. But like I said, a lot of people don't have the Zags making the Final Four. I just kind of feel like that's just like a really trendy type of thing. They've been on top of college basketball from the start of the season. There really hasn't been a team better than them. I think Auburn was undefeated at one point, but they just kind of tapered off there. But the Zags have been here before. They're very experienced, and I feel like that'll carry over well to the tournament, even with a one and done type of situation.
Well, the good thing is that Kansas is also in my Elite Eight. So as far as how we're looking at these teams, even from different points of view, we're getting close to the same conclusion. So Kansas, um, I have Kansas all the way into they play USC in the championship of the Midwest. So is that the Elite Eight, right? Yeah, Elite Eight. Yeah. So Kansas goes all the way to Elite Eight for me. And that was, and if it wasn't for USC having um, Kansas's number, Kansas would be in the Final Four. So very interesting that our teams are based on a verse outside of me bailing on Gonzaga. But I'm going to say this right now. If you're going to bet the winner of your tournament, find the odds as early as you can. Bet it before the first round of the games. Currently, for my winner, before everyone goes crazy, I have Kentucky. Kentucky, number two seed, playing Villanova, another number two seed, in the Final Four winning. So Kentucky currently right now is plus 700 to win the whole tournament, which is solid odds on a team that could win. Plus 700 for a number two seed. You bet $100, you get $700 back. So that's my winner for the whole tournament bracket is Kentucky. Of course, I have different bets for each division. My biggest bet right now being Arkansas at plus 1,600 to win the West. So that's going to be where I hope I get majority of my money from is Arkansas and USC at plus 1,900 to win the Midwest. So those are my two biggest bets. But Kentucky and Villanova meeting in the championship is my matchup with Kentucky edging them out once again and taking home the prize. And I'm hoping that comes true, man. Plus 700, that's my winner. And who do you have winning the whole thing?
This is a pretty long shot according to some future sports books. It looks like they're around like the 10th or so most favorite team to win it all. But I've got UCLA taking it over Kansas for the national title. I think that this is a team that they just kind of sparked my interest when I was watching them last year making their run. They just play with a lot of intensity. They control what they can control to me. So they are currently plus 2,200. So that puts them behind the Zags, Arizona, Kentucky, Kansas, Baylor, Auburn, Duke, Nova, Purdue, and Tennessee. So they're actually tied for 11th. Some sports books have them as high as plus 1,800 above some of those teams that I mentioned. But if I can get UCLA at plus 2,200, at the very least, I kind of want to see what their odds are to come out of their division. But I definitely would put money on them winning the whole thing. Um, we don't know who's gonna win it all. That's why it's March Madness. Basketball is not really a sport that was made for one and done. So college has done a great job of just coming in and throwing that chaos element into it. But I do like UCLA's odds just overall.
Plus 2,200 is a big return on your investment. UCLA has a tough road. I mean, that's why their odds are so high. You got Baylor and Kentucky in their in their conference, but that's a spicy bet. We're definitely going to put that on Twitter and make a poll to see what the audience thinks about our Final Four picks and our winners. So definitely, guys, look out for that. So here are the top bets for this upcoming round. For the first round, we got Indiana and Notre Dame. Now, if you do bet a third team, I would suggest Wright State. I'm not overly confident with that bet, but because they are from Dayton, Ohio, and they're playing in Dayton, Ohio, to me, that's a little bit of advantage from Bryant traveling to where they are. As far as the first round goes, my top bets would be Auburn, spread and money line. They're 12-0 against Jackson State. So they're Jacksonville State or whatever team that is. So they've been hammering them as of late. I also like Wisconsin over Colgate, Iowa State, Providence at -2 versus South Dakota State. South Dakota State has never won a game in March Madness. They are 0-5. I like San Diego State. They've won the last two games against Creighton. They're at -2.5. Villanova is one of my top picks for this upcoming round. They're 14-0 against Delaware. That speaks for itself right there. Ohio State versus Loyola is a bridge game for me. I really like Tennessee. This is Longwood's first appearance, and Tennessee has never lost in the first round as a top seed. So that's a big thing for me there. Money line, their spread is really large, though it's 17.5. But I do like the money line. Chattahoochee, as you guys know, is my sneaky underdog pick against Illinois. UAB the same. Well, you can also take the spread for both of those games at plus 7.5, 8.5. You're getting a lot of room to maneuver just in case they don't win. So bet the spread and the money line for both of those games. Seton Hall is even versus TCU. Seton Hall is 3-0 in the first round as the number 8 seed. So they've never lost in the first round as a number 8. I like Seton Hall over TCU. I like Arizona over Wright State. Kentucky over St. Peter. UCLA over Akron. Both St. Peter and Akron are both winless in March Madness with a combined 0-7 record with both of those two teams. I like North Carolina against Marquette. I like Baylor's spread -20.5 over Norfolk State. They've beaten them twice now by 30 points or more. I like Texas Tech over Montana State and Memphis over Boise State. So what I did was I compiled all of my top picks into a parlay just to see what that would get me. And Charles, guess how much the odds were on this college team bet of all my picks combined together?
That's a lot. I'm gonna go on a limb and say plus 100,000.
Oh yes, very close. Plus 117,524. So if every pick I said goes right, I'm gonna put this card in tomorrow at $5 for the card. I would win $5,000, $881. $5,881, 21 cents. Plus 117,000 odds. Now, do I expect that to hit all the way? No, because I got some underdogs in there. But if it does. And for majority of those picks, there's only two underdogs in there. So as far as them being likely to happen, it should happen. These teams, Gonzaga should win. Villanova should win. Those are games that should win. I do have some toss up games in there, but I'm hoping that 117,000 hits, man. So that would be a nice early birthday present in this month for me. So those are my top picks. Again, to reiterate, Final Four is Arkansas, Kentucky, Villanova, and USC. Charles' Final Four is Gonzaga, Kansas, UCLA. Who am I missing?
We
What's the
got the
fourth team?
same one coming out the South, man.
Kentucky?
Villanova.
Yeah, I said that. Villanova, Kansas, UCLA. What's the other team?
The Zags.
Gonzaga. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you've heard our Final Four. Charles' winners is UCLA. Mine is Kentucky. We will be posting this on Twitter in a poll, so make sure you guys stay tuned, engage, get some feedback. We also have a free bracket contest on Yahoo. We posted on our Twitter. Join the contest, compete with us, see how your brackets does against professional gamblers as us. And good luck, guys. If you're going to make some bets, make sure you follow us on Twitter. I post all of my top bets. We post all of our top bets on our Twitter page, basketball, football, and college basketball. So all of our college basketball picks will be loaded by tomorrow so you can see all of our top picks. And guys, good luck. Thanks for watching the show.
Thanks for watching.